Hi, this is Musa. I want to show you a game from today's World Cup round 4.3 between Anish Giri and Radoslaw Wojtaszek. This is of course game 3 after 2 draws, and today is the deciding day for the qualifier to the quarter-final. Now Giri has the white pieces and started in English, and this is Carl's variation in the book. And after e4 here trying to control the center, but black here is faced with many choices. As you can see, d6, d5, even e5 works, or c5, or even knight c6. The choice today was d5, and white pretty much can go ahead and play e5, attack the knight. The knight will go to e4, and then maybe white will play knight f3, not exchanging the knights. The other choice which is present in the game is c takes d5, opens the diagonal for the bishop, and after e takes d5, white proceeds with e5. Knight shouldn't go back, but in reality we have knight e4. This is in the game, and there was obviously another choice which is d4, and this is seen in some games previously. White can take on f6, d takes c3, queen to e2 check, bishop e6, and d takes c3, avoiding the IQP, isolated queen's pawn, and maybe after queen takes f6. Black is kind of faster than white. Maybe if white can play queen b5, then he's equalizing in development, and the other way to go is to play immediately knight f3, sacrifice a pawn for development. D takes c3, e takes f6, c takes d2 check, bishop takes d2. After queen takes f6, white can play bishop to c3, or even bishop to b5 check, and white will have a compensation for faster development for the lost pawn. Let's go back to the game. After knight e4, we have knight to f3. Even d4 here was a choice. Knight to f3, of course black cannot take because the knight is free, so he plays bishop to f5, and the idea here is that he wants to play either d4 or bishop to b4, preventing white from advancing his pawn to d4 and then pin the knight if white does move to d3 or plays another move. But white here immediately plays d4, connect the e5 pawn and prevent white from playing d4 himself. So bishop b4 now. White has many choices. Actually he can play bishop to d2 immediately, or play queen to a4 check, forces the knight to play to c6. Then maybe the queen goes back to b3, and black should castle. But in this case white played bishop to d2. Here Anish Giri played bishop to d2. He also could have played queen to b3 immediately, and maybe black here should play after queen to b3, maybe c5. Let's go back. White here played, or Anish Giri played bishop d2. Another way to go is after bishop to b4. Even white here can play a3, bishop takes c3, b takes c3, and if black actually should castle or play c5. If black takes, then queen to b3, knight goes back, and queen takes b7, knight to d7, queen takes d5, and white or black can castle or play c6, lure the queen into his territory. If queen takes, then rook to c8, queen b7, and maybe rook back to b8. And this is actually a bit of a long variation, but it leads to equality in an open game. f5. Now bishop to d2, queen to c2, bishop to c4 threatens check on f7, and maybe bishop to e6. The only solution would be rook to c1, queen takes c1 check, bishop takes queen, bishop takes queen on d5, bishop takes d5, and now maybe rook to c8 or even knight to c3, and the game goes on, or maybe lead to equality. Let's go back to the game. This is bishop to d2, and now bishop takes c3, bishop takes c3, the knight doesn't have to take, black rather castled, and now bishop to e2, quiet move. c5, and forcing of course the pawn to take, pawn takes, and now knight takes c3. Now the bishop became a little more important. b takes c3, bishop to e4, and now white castles. Knight d7 trying to collect the pawn, knight to d4, knight takes c5, and f3 attacking the bishop. This will affect this diagonal in the future. If the queen has planned to go there, bishop goes back to g6 after being threatened, and now knight to b5. White will jump with his knight to d6, and this is the changing point of the game. White will reach some advantage after some moves, or a few moves. Now rook to e8 instead of queen to b6, threatening discover, or even queen to a5. If knight moves to d6, then maybe black will be free to take the c3, or has some pressure on c3, with the bishop on g6 controlling the queen side, which is open for the moment. But rook to e8 attacking this pawn immediately allows queen d4 or even f4. Anish Giri here chooses f4 and bishop to e4 back, and the idea behind this is that now black shifts from attacking the queen side to attacking the king side with queen b6 and bishop on this diagonal. White's king side is weakened, but we'll see who's faster to exert some pressure. Now knight to d6 and rook to e7. Maybe rook to e6 was better, but after rook to e7, Anish Giri found a really good move, and that is c4. Pawn takes and bishop takes. Now the pressure is on f7, bishop to c6. Maybe the bishop can have ideas to go and defend the king side now. Queen c2, after double takes on f7, maybe first with the knight attacking the queen, then if rook takes, of course it is threatening discover, so rook must take, then bishop takes with check, and white queen will take the knight on c5, so the knight must move. And now rook opposite the queen on d1, queen b6 check, king h1, and this bishop is looking mean at this king, but white is still better. So black here tries to find a solution for the monster knight on d6. He tries g6 maybe to solve f5 problem, but Anish Giri doesn't waste any time. He plays f5 immediately. Now the trick is that Anish Giri, with white pieces here, wants to give black some hope that he's gonna have some initiative or some attack, counter attack here, by playing knight to d4. This will collect the pawn on f5, and of course attacking the queen, queen d2. The problem with this move for black is that the queen has access now to h6. If the pawn gets to advance, then it's a big problem for black. But knight now takes on f5, thinking that the knight might take, but Anish Giri values his knight so much he took with the rook, sacrificing the exchange. And after g takes f5 and knight takes f5, black resigned, and Anish Giri went straight ahead to the quarterfinals. Why did black resign? The first thing that comes to mind is saving the rook, but the rook cannot be saved because the queen is coming to h6. Let's see. At this point, of course, we had resignation, but let's see something like king to f8, and this is just to satisfy your curiosity. This is check, queen h6 check, the king moves to e8, only move, knight g7, king back to f8. As you can see, the rook is controlling this file. After king to f8, knight e6, double check, discover check, and after king to e8, queen to f8, check, mate. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye for now.